In a tiny European village, there is a scary dragon that frightens the people. The dragon is very mean to humans. To make the dragon happy, the villagers used to offer their young girls as sacrifices in a special ceremony. Each time, the dragon would pick one girl and take her away. This kept happening for a long time until a brave knight came to the dragon's island to save his beloved. But when he found out that she was already gone, he fought a tough battle with the dragon and won. The knight made the people feel safe again and was called the Dragon Slayer. The scary ritual turned into a happy wedding celebration. Now, many years later, a young princess named Miroslava, who goes by Mira, is going to marry the grandson of the Dragon Slayer, Igor. Mira's dad and sister think she's too young because she still enjoys fairy tales and playing with toys. Despite their concerns, they prepare Mira for her wedding and lead her out of the palace. They place her on a boat deck that will take her across the water to her future husband. As Igor pulls her boat closer to him, his people sing a special song to honor his grandfather, the Dragon Slayer. All of a sudden, a powerful storm strikes, and the dragon, believed to be gone, reappears, scaring everyone. The dragon seizes Mira during the ceremony and tosses her into a cave on a distant island. After a while, Mira wakes up and discovers the hole she fell from. She attempts to climb out, but a wolf-like creature startles her, causing her to fall again. The creature descends and growls menacingly, making Mira grab a stone for protection. Just then, she hears a male voice advising her to throw the stone away and lie down. The creature comes closer but doesn't harm her, ultimately leaving her unharmed. After the encounter, Mira inquires about the person's identity and asks for assistance. The person replies that he can't help her, causing Mira to believe that he, too, is a captive. She proceeds to ask more about the place and the dragon, but the person tells her it's not safe to talk and refuses to provide any information. Desperate for help, Mira pounds on the wall and pleads for assistance, but her injuries cause her to stumble. Seeing her struggle, the man offers her a paste made from crushed leaves for her wounds. Mira peers through the hole and notices that the man's appearance doesn't seem like that of a prisoner. She introduces herself, but the man confesses he can't remember his own name since he never needed it. Later, Mira comes up with a plan to defeat the wolf and escape while the dragon is asleep. However, the man insists that they can't escape the dragon, no matter how hard they try. Filled with anger and determination, Mira calls the man a coward and angrily closes the hole. She decides to find her own way out, cutting her braided hair and fashioning a makeshift rope. While she's doing this, the man attempts to talk to her, explaining that he's not a coward, but believes the dragon is unbeatable. He apologizes, leading Mira to remove the rock from the hole. In gratitude, Mira gives him the name Arman, which she finds exotic and mysterious, just like him. She extends her hand for a handshake, but as their hands touch, the dragon suddenly yanks Arman away. Arman warns Mira about the dragon and urges her to stay hidden. Shortly after, the dragon appears right above Mira, terrifying her. When the dragon leaves, Mira calls out for Arman, but there's no response. Left alone, she tries to use her hair as a rope to climb up, but her efforts prove to be in vain. Frustrated, she grabs a large rock and begins banging it against the wall. In a surprising turn of events, Mira finds a hole in the wall big enough for her to pass through. She walks out and heads toward the exit. As she goes through a pathway, the dragon starts chasing her. In her panic, she runs and enters another hole. The dragon breathes fire at the hole, but she manages to slip inside. She eventually reaches a high ledge above the ground. Before she can go any further, Arman appears and tries to stop her. To her amazement, a wolf listens to his commands, and Mira finally realizes he is actually the dragon. Arman attempts to calm her down, promising to explain everything, but Mira steps backward and falls off the edge. As she falls through the air, Arman catches her. His body glows red, and he transforms into the dragon just before they hit the ground. He saves her life, but he gets hurt in the process. Shortly after, the dragon turns back into Arman's form. Perceiving Arman as a threat, Mira contemplates using a rock to harm him, but she can't bring herself to do it. Instead, she's overcome with compassion for Arman's condition and chooses to help him. She moves him to an open area and eventually collapses beside him. A little while later, the sleeping Arman mumbles that the dangerous dragon fire inside him is a grave danger to everyone and must be removed. At that moment, his body emits a red glow, teetering on the edge of transforming into a dragon, but he collapses again. Afterward, Mira goes down to the shoreline and calls for help, but there's no one to answer her cries. Shortly after, she spots an old boat washed ashore, briefly raising her hopes of escape. However, she abandons the idea when a storm hits the sea. In response, she rushes back to Arman and uses a broken ship mast to create an improvised shelter. Upon finishing the shelter, Mira hears Arman murmuring again. Realizing he's injured, she applies the leaf paste to his wound and uses her sleeves to bandage it. As she touches him, his body starts to glow red, but she manages to calm him down by singing a lullaby, which surprisingly works. Eventually, Mira falls asleep beside him. The following morning, she wakes up wrapped in a blanket, with a piece of fruit left by Arman. After eating it, she goes down to the shore and finds him catching fish. She asks him why he won't simply take her home if he has no intention of harming her. In response, Arman explains that it's not as simple as it seems. He goes on to share his life story, recounting how he never wanted to become a dragon like his father. However, after witnessing his father's death, he was consumed by rage that transformed him into a dragon. Despite this tragic transformation, he vowed to live as a human. Arman explains that he had chosen to live in isolation on the island to prevent himself from causing harm to humans. When he felt the uncontrollable transformation into a dragon, he would retreat to a narrow cave where the dragon couldn't escape and stay there until he changed back into a human. He tells Mira that everything had been going well until he heard the ritual song during her wedding. He believes that the dragon within him awakens every time she touches him, which is why he can't simply take her home. Additionally, he mentions that the island is under a magical spell, and only those who are loved by someone on the island can find their way to it. During their conversation, Arman stumbles and falls, but he cautions Mira not to assist him, fearing that the dragon might resurface. Mira reassures him that it hasn't appeared yet, and notes that his human side is becoming stronger. She then promises to help him learn how to live as a human while she waits for Igor's arrival. In the following scene, Mira decides to transform Arman's hideout into a more human-like living space. Together, they use shipwrecked items and things washed ashore to decorate the area. As days pass, they start enjoying each other's company. Eventually, they succeed in turning the once empty hideout into a beautiful and cozy haven. While staying there, Mira surprises Arman with a flute that plays a soothing lullaby. In return, Arman amazes her with some fireworks, leaving Mira mesmerized by the display. One night, Mira awakens to an unusual sound and begins searching for Arman. Soon, she encounters the dragon and, showing great bravery, reaches out to touch it. However, upon contact, the dragon becomes uncontrollable and starts chasing her. Suddenly, Mira wakes up, revealing that it was just a nightmarish dream. She finds Arman in front of her, looking visibly concerned. Mira opens up to Arman about her fear of dragons, and he assures her that the dragon will never harm her. The next day, while Mira is swimming in a natural pool, Arman holds some flowers, seemingly contemplating how to express his affection for her, but his nervousness holds him back. Suddenly, the dragon begins to take control of his body, causing the flowers to catch fire. Realizing the transformation, Arman rushes to a cliff to regain his composure. Mira eventually finds him and shows him a kite she has crafted. Arman inquires about why Igor hasn't arrived yet, but Mira doesn't have an answer. It becomes clear that she doesn't want Igor to come, as her feelings for Arman are growing stronger. Later that night, Arman discovers a boat on the shore and assumes Mira is attempting to leave the island. He confronts her and leads her to an altar where he unveils the true reason behind the dragons taking maidens to the island. Arman shares a troubling revelation. Dragons consume young girls in fiery rituals, giving rise to new dragons from the ashes, much like his own origin. He somberly predicts a similar fate for Mira. He declares himself a monstrous being unable to coexist with humans, validating her fear of him. Arman admits to observing her actions over several days, convinced she's gathering washed-up items for mapping, using fireworks as signals, and preparing the boat for an escape. He decisively instructs her to depart the very next day. Mira endeavors to clarify the misunderstanding, but an enraged Arman cruelly discards her flute, shattering her spirit. At daybreak, Mira boards the boat and sails away. Elsewhere, Igor and his companions embark on an earnest quest to find her, yet their endeavors prove fruitless. Igor, lacking his grandfather's valor, contemplates a return. However, his helmsman reminds him of the solemn oath he made and dissuades him from turning back, emphasizing the importance of upholding his family's honor. Amidst their heated exchange, the night sky is suddenly illuminated by fireworks, and from the mist emerges Mira. They swiftly bring her on board and inquire about the dragon. To protect Arman from harm, she fabricates a story, claiming that the dragon fell from a cliff and perished. In the subsequent scene, Mira is once again being prepared for her wedding to Igor, though she doesn't appear happy about it. Conversely, Arman is overwhelmed with sorrow, uncertain about how to continue living without Mira. Nevertheless, he holds gratitude for the joyful moments they shared. He bids her farewell and makes his way to the cliff, clutching her flute in his hand. He then leaps off, contemplating a drastic decision. As Arman descends through the air, his inner dragon stirs, but he manages to calm it by playing the flute. Simultaneously, Mira is seated in a boat, and Igor begins to pull her across the water. However, in the middle of the journey, she realizes that her heart still belongs to Arman, and she cannot imagine life without him. So, she stands up and boldly declares that she doesn't love Igor. Igor is taken aback and reminds her of how he saved her, but Mira insists that her love is for the dragon. Following this, she begins to sing the ritual song, summoning her beloved, while Igor desperately tries to warn her about the consequences. Her father and sister watch with tears in their eyes. As she finishes singing, the dragon appears and reclaims Mira, taking her back to the island. He places her on the altar, but this time, she is unafraid. She confesses her love for him, and her words melt away Arman's anger. He rests his head on her lap, allowing her to caress him. Years later, Arman and Mira are seen living together on the island, and they now have a little daughter. After putting their baby to sleep, Mira mounts her dragon husband, and they take off together, flying into the sky.